Today I'm going to give you a demo of Social Verdict, which is a SaaS tool that does two primary things, both relating to Reddit. Number one is it monitors brand sentiment over time of conversations that are happening right now on Reddit and historically. And the second thing is it monitors brand mentions, and you can basically filter off of those brand mentions to do anything you want really with automation. It could be just simple notifications, or you can do anything you want. The limitations are quite vast. And so let's start right here. Here's a brand analysis. This is for Canadian Tire. Canadian Tire is the Canadian version basically of Walmart, is the best way to describe it. It is a very large department store in Canada. And here are the mentions that we've scraped for Canadian Tire. And so started monitoring it in July of 2024 with this brand. You can see almost 400 posts have been analyzed and almost 3,000 comments. And that is both standalone comments of Canadian Tire mentions and also posts about Canadian Tire with comments underneath. And so those comments underneath don't necessarily mention Canadian Tire. Maybe it was mentioned earlier in the thread or in the post. And so there's a couple different ways to interpret this data. It's not necessarily just it was mentioned this many times in comments and this many times in posts. So there's basically a breakdown over time. Again, we started monitoring them in July, but we scrape historic data as well, but we don't scrape to that extent. So it's not fair to judge the brand based on this trajectory. There is actually many mentions historically, but just with the cost of AI analyzing thousands of comments, it's just not reasonable to go back, decades and decades. Rather, we analyze like the most popular threads that are likely to have the most impressions and judge the emotional and sentiment analysis off of that. Beyond that, we have several more reports here just on the dashboard. We have the sentiment by month compared to other brands within the platform. And so this will continue to change as the number of brands we track grows. And so you can track that month to month and see how you're doing compared to baseline. Here's the sentiment distribution, again, month by month, but it breaks it into positive and negative. And so sentiment, you'll see, we'll get to it in a second here. We judge it based on -1, and then we have single digit decimals up to +1. And so if it's below 0, then it's negative. If it's above 0, it's positive. And of course, there are some comments and posts that are neutral. They're exactly 0. And so you can track that ratio and see, what direction is the brand trending. Beyond that, we have an emotional breakdown of all the different emotions of the comments and posts. Again, all analyzed by AI. And then we have the most polarized subreddits. Some negative, some positive, and then keyword frequency. You can track keywords beyond just the brand name. Most times you're just tracking the brand name, but some brands may have a product line that they want to follow that is related to the brand, and it might not make sense to track as a separate brand. So that's an opportunity for that, but in this case, we're just tracking Canadian Tire. Let's go on to some of the more features beyond this. We have the post tab, and you can filter by a number of things here. And if there's something here that you don't see, send us an email. We build to suit here at Social Verdict and continuously, almost daily, implement customer features and requests. And so this is always changing, always evolving. It's not going to shrink, but it's definitely going to, if you're watching this more than 24 hours from now, this has expanded. It continuously gets developed on and on. So we have 1,100 posts being analyzed. You can filter by things and keywords mentioned in the post or not in the post. The brand name, of course, if you're tracking your brand and then maybe a competitor brand as well, you can choose from that. Keywords, again, you can track product lines and things related to your brand. The minimum score based on upvotes. You have the minimum comments. Of course, we're looking at posts here alone, so you can track by the comments or number of comments. What subreddits they appear in, the post type, number of post types there. The sentiment range, we've talked a little bit about this. Negative sentiment, anything below 0, and you can see right here, there's an example right there of 0.20. So it's just on the positive side. It's not really that positive, but it is on the positive side, according to the AI analysis. Relevance, this is 0 to 1. So this is a really cool feature because sometimes people mention the brand just in passing. It doesn't actually mean anything to the brand to know about. And so you can filter based on 0.5 relevance or higher if you want to just look at highly relevant comments and posts. However, some people want to see everything. So that's why we don't filter out by default. We show you all the mentions that we can find and track. Date range of when it happened. We have, of course, you can just do like last 28 days or something like that. If you want to, maybe you're checking once a day or every 7 days from your brand account. You want to jump into conversations. Maybe you're a large brand. You can't jump into every conversation. So just your typical monitoring tool doesn't really work. But let's say you want to jump into brands or comments that are like, on the negative sentiment only and at least a 0.5 relevance or higher. So highly relevant negative comments, you do have the capacity for in-house to reply to those. Maybe you're coming in here every 7 days and doing that. Of course, you can sort by a number of things. And again, this is always changing. And so down here in the data, well, before we get there, you can actually export. If you have a certain amount of filters set, you can download the CSV. But you can see here certain things about certain mentions and posts. Let's see here. There was one I was looking at a minute ago. This is talking about gun selection at Canadian Tire. Mentioned some different brands, mentioned some positive things. They have lots of nice brands. And they have it at a 0.3, and AI has it analyzed at a 0.3. So it's a positive sentiment about Canadian Tire, but it's not like a rave review, and that's uncommon to see on Reddit. People don't push too aggressively. It's a very natural, a natural way to, I don't know what's the best way to put that. They just don't go over the top, usually promoting brands, because it comes off promotional. And so anyways, lots of options here. You can click the link to view and actually go and see the post in Reddit, of course, and get involved. And then we also have the comments. And so we have a handful of comments here. And the system's always scraping to get more. Now we have contains by keywords, doesn't contain, brand, keyword, subreddit. A lot of the similar metrics as before. And then, of course, the comments. And then you can see Canadian Tire is like 7-Eleven for firearms. It's not really. It's actually a department store. Bad prices, but if you need something in a pinch, they probably have it. I guess it's because 7-Eleven is considered expensive, I guess is why they're saying that. The sentiment, negative 0.2, and relevance is 0.7. So the system determined that it's pretty relevant to the people who are in the corporate office at Canadian Tire, and they the AI thinks that the sentiment is generally negative, and it is negative, right? It's saying bad prices. If you need something in a pinch, they probably have it. So it's not like they don't have anything and they have bad prices, but they have bad prices, but they probably have what you're looking for. And this person is classified as annoyed, and so that's the basis of the Reddit comments and the Reddit post tabs. Again, you can download the CSV, get all this data for yourself. On the settings page, you can see some basic settings you have, of course. Set up your keyword tracking. That's where I talked about. You can mention other brand lines or things associated with your brand name. And then at the bottom is where things get really, really exciting. Not the team collaboration, that's also exciting, but the make.com integration. And so you can take all the data we just talked about and send it through instantly as part of notifications as a webhook. And so you can basically, super straightforward, go to make.com. You can paste in the webhook URL, You don't need to be super technical to do this. It might take you a couple minutes to set up, and you can use a free make.com account. And then you can basically have Slack notifications, email notifications, Teams notifications, whatever you want in terms of notifications, you can configure it through the integration with Make. And so another option is you can have, there's so many applications, but if you send it to Slack, then your team can jump in and then respond to it. If it's and you can filter it based off of the parameters of the analysis. You can filter it to negative sentiment, highly relevant only, send me a text when it happens. So I can click the link, go into Reddit, reply to it, and then downvote negative sentiment and upvote positive sentiment. You can do so many different things. But that's all here with the webhook make.com integration. So that is where we sit here with the platform. Again, if you're watching this video, 99.99% of you, this is going to be all different because we're adding so many features because there's been so much demand for a platform like this, and I can't wait to expand it with you. If you have any questions, send me an email, josh@socialverdict.com, and I look forward to working with you.